Hello everyone, so the organizational behavior topic that we are going to do today is learning. Before starting the theories of learning, let's just discuss what learning actually is. We use learning in a very casual manner in our day-to-day life, like learn it by heart, learn this, learn that. That means what? What is learning? Is learning memorizing? Can we use learning and memorizing interchangeably? No, we cannot. Memorizing and learning has one thin line difference, and that is understanding. You may memorize something without understanding it, but learning happens only when you understand it. Then you learn. Memorize is ratification. You can memorize without learning, but you cannot learn without understanding. Okay, so understanding is the key difference between memorizing and learning. So what actually learning is when you gain knowledge through experience, through practice, through teaching, through attending classes. Okay, that is learning. When you learn, you also understand the concept. You also understand what is going in your brain. When you memorize, you may or may not understand what is going in your brain. Okay, for example, see, a lot of times a lot of actors, they memorize the lines of different language as well. So they may not understand the language, they may not understand what they are memorizing, but they memorize it. Understanding would be when they read the script and they also understand what the script is saying. Okay, so that is learning. Learning can also lead to behavioral change. It can also lead to attitude change. Attitude, I have already discussed in a previous video. You can go watch the video. I'll link it in my description below. See, when you learn things, you gain knowledge about it. So when you learn it, your attitude, your behavior towards that also can change. The cognitive component of attitude you are altering while you are learning. Okay, so your attitude can change, your behavior can change through learning. Can anyone give me an example of how behavior can change through learning? In the comments below, I'll be waiting for the very good examples, and I hope we all can learn through your examples how learning can change behavior. Okay, so moving on, theories of learning. Let's first discuss the most famous theory and the most interesting theory of all, classical conditioning theory by Ivan Pavlov. Ivan Pavlov was a psychologist who framed this theory. Pavlov's theory is based on altering the involuntary response. What Ivan Pavlov said was that you can even alter, or you can make someone learn how and when the involuntary response comes. So I'll try to explain it in as simple manner as possible, because when you start reading the book, unconditioned response, conditioned response, unconditioned stimulus, conditioned stimulus, you will get confused between all of these. So let me start by explaining his experiment. What Ivan Pavlov noticed was whenever he offered food to his dog, the dog started salivating. It is an involuntary response that whenever we have food in front of us, involuntary response is salivation. जब भी हमारा favorite खाना हमारे सामने आता है तो हमारे मुंह में पानी आ जाता है, right? This is the salivation part. So whenever he used to offer food to the dog started salivating. He thought, can this salivation be stimulated by other action without the food? Can the dog start salivating without the food? So what he did was, before offering food to the dog, he started ringing a bell. He did it for a long period of time. Before offering food to the dog, he rang the bell. Before offering food to the dog, he rang the bell. Every time before offering food to the dog, he rang the bell. Now what happened? These two things attached and registered in the brain of dog. What happened? Whenever now Ivan Pavlov rang the bell, the dog started salivating, because the next step was food coming in front of the dog, right? Whenever the bell rang, the dog started salivating. Now the food wasn't here yet. The food wasn't in front of the dog yet, but he started salivating. Why? Because it was conditioned in his brain that whenever the bell will ring, he will get the food. Okay, so now let's understand the theory behind it, all the saga of conditioned, unconditioned, stimulus, response. Okay, conditioned means we are conditioning it, we are doing something to it so that it is conditioned, and unconditioned is naturally occurring. So food and salivation are naturally occurring phenomena. Food is coming, salivation occurs, involuntary response. So unconditioned stimulus is food, unconditioned response is salivation. Conditioned stimulus is bell, conditioned response is dog salivating on the ring of bell. Okay, so are you clear with all of this? Now let's understand the experiment. Before conditioning, during conditioning, and after conditioning. So here, before conditioning, what is happening? Before conditioning, food is coming, dog is salivating. That's it. During conditioning, bell is ringing, food is coming, then dog is salivating. After conditioning, bell is ringing, food is not coming, still dog is salivating. That means Ivan Pavlov said, if any neutral stimulus is attached to unconditioned stimulus, it can generate a unconditioned response. Here, neutral stimulus bell attached to unconditioned stimulus, that is food, and it generated a conditioned response, that is salivation. Okay, for example, how it works in real life. We were conditioned since our childhood that whenever teacher enters our class, we stand up. So even if the teacher enters our class for not teaching or just for a minute, we stand up. Okay, so this conditioning has happened through our years of schooling, right? So this is what conditioning does. This happens a lot in marketing, a lot. It also happens in organizations. For example, for setting up of a good environment, whenever you enter your boss's or supervisor's room, supervisor smiles, okay, and you smile back. So whenever next you enter your boss's room or your supervisor's room, even if the supervisor doesn't smile, you smile, okay. So that is how a climate, changing the culture of the organization can be done through classical conditioning. I hope you understood what is classical conditioning. Let's move on to the next theory, that is operant conditioning theory by B.F. Skinner. Now, classical conditioning theory was based on involuntary actions, and operant conditioning theory is based on voluntary actions. So what here B.F. Skinner said was, if you want to make a person repeat their action, you must reinforce that action, and if you want the person not to repeat the action, you must punish the action. It involves not the involuntary action, it involves voluntary action. Because B.F. Skinner talks about positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. A lot of times I have seen while checking papers, students get confused between positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment. I'll just explain this concept and make this clear for once and all. See, reinforcement, let's discuss, is you want to make the person repeat the behavior, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to reinforce, you're going to do something good. Only then the person will repeat the behavior. Punishment, either positive or negative, cannot be good. Punishment is bad, okay? So positive punishment, negative punishment, both means have to punish the person to not repeat the behavior. Positive means to add something, negative means to subtract something. So when we are talking about positive reinforcement, means we are adding something to the life of a person whose behavior we want to repeat. For example, incentives. For example, giving benefits. Okay, a person has performed well, we give them increment. Adding something, we are adding the money. The person has performed well, we give them a paid holiday. That means we are adding something. A person is performing well, we give them promotion. We are adding something so that they repeat this behavior of good performance. Person is performing well, we take away some load of work, okay, so that person feels happy and repeats the behavior, the good performance behavior. Person is performing well, we take the rigidity of their work time. That means we give them flexible timing. This is, we are taking away something for the person to be motivated enough to repeat the behavior. That is negative reinforcement. For example, you do good in class, your teacher takes away the extra work that she gave you. Negative reinforcement. Now you'll be motivated enough to again perform well in class so that no extra work is given to you. Understood? So positive means adding something, negative means subtracting something. Reinforcement remains the same. That means you're doing something good so that the person repeats their behavior. Okay, let's move on to the punishment part. Pitai. Where you don't want the person to do the same thing that they're doing, you punish them. होती थी ना बचपन में पिटाई, पनिशमेंट मिलती थी ना मम्मी से, पापा से, टीचर्स से, अगर कुछ गलत काम कर देते थे हम. So that is exactly, punishment remains the same. The concept of punishment remains the same. Evergreen. So punishment is that, positive punishment is that you're adding something to their life for them not to repeat the same behavior. For example, you did not perform good in your college, in your school. You are given extra classes. That is positive punishment. You did not do well in your exam. You are handed over with 10 extra assignments. That is positive punishment. Okay, so something, adding something to make you not repeat the behavior. Next is negative punishment. Negative punishment doesn't mean that it's something good. Negative punishment is subtracting something from your life so that you don't repeat the action. For example, you did not perform well in your organization. Negative punishment would be decreasing your salary. Negative, subtracting something. Negative punishment would be cancelling your increment. Negative punishment for a student would be get out of the class. Subtracting the knowledge that they could have had in the class. Okay, so that is negative punishment. Though the teachers don't understand that the student is going to enjoy better, and it is no more a punishment for kids. Negative punishment would be you behave wrongly and you don't get attendance. That is negative punishment. Subtracting something so that you don't repeat the action, that is negative punishment. Okay, so that is operant conditioning, when your voluntary actions are altered by reinforcement or punishment.